So in this video, we're going to be talking about why the Super Nintendo is the GOAT, the greatest console ever created. And this is not to say that there aren't other great consoles to get into and spend your money on and collect, but if I had to recommend to anyone getting into retro gaming which console to go out and buy, it would be the Super Nintendo without a doubt. Not that it's, 10 times better than any of these other consoles. It's fair to say that some might be a cut above the rest. And that one in particular, I believe, is the Super Nintendo. And yes, I've played lots of consoles, the PS2, Xbox 360, NES, Sega Genesis, and many more. I really think it is the best console ever created. I really do. And we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into why I believe it's the greatest of all time. I even got this Super Nintendo hoodie for Christmas because my family knows I love video games. When it comes to the Super Nintendo's game library, the Super Nintendo is known for having absolute banger after banger after banger. I mean, they put out so many great titles for this console. I'm not saying there aren't any bad titles for the Super Nintendo. I am saying that there are dozens of legendary games on this console. There are dozens of titles that are first-rate, best games you could play. There are dozens of absolute bangers that you could pick up today and start playing this week. This console is home to some of the most legendary games in the entire gaming community. Let's name off a few. Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, Final Fantasy III, Contra 3, The Alien Wars, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Goof Troop, Sunset Riders, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Mega Man X, NBA Jam, and believe it or not, there are a lot more fun games to play on the Super Nintendo than just the ones I mentioned. There's a reason why so many people believe the Super Nintendo is the best console ever created. Just the games I've mentioned earlier would take, a month to beat, and that's if you're a dedicated gamer that wants to play every single day. Super Mario World was the first 2D platformer I ever played, and I still haven't beaten it. I'm kind of just taking my time with it and soaking in what a fantastic game it is. You don't have to rush through these games, you don't have to be able to beat this game in 5 minutes like some other people on YouTube. You can take months to beat this if you want to. There's nothing wrong with it. Mario has the perfect formula where it's easy to get into, but it's hard to master. Anyone can beat the first few levels without much difficulty, but beating the game is a respectable accomplishment. It's very satisfying feeling yourself improve with each gaming session. If you've never played a 2D platformer or haven't gotten into retro gaming yet, I would recommend the Super Nintendo, along with a copy of Super Mario World to start. The games are definitely more difficult than most modern games, but because they're difficult, they're more satisfying to play. It's not like they're impossible to beat, like how some games on the NES feel. They just have a healthy level of challenge to them. You actually have to play them to beat them. It seems like a lot of modern games want to hold your hand through the entire game. I get how this can be appealing, especially if you're new to video games, and hey, maybe that's where you need to start, and that's just fine. But for me, and I'm sure some of you might feel the same way, I like a healthy challenge to my games. Not so difficult that I feel like I'll never be able to beat it, but definitely not so easy that it feels like I'm playing through a tutorial the entire game. Have you ever played through a game where the introduction took over 30 minutes to complete? I'm looking at you, Legends Arceus. Super Nintendo games, like many other games and consoles from this generation, aren't like that. They're plug and play. That's one thing I like about the Super Nintendo the most. There are a ton of titles that you can beat over a weekend. If you're an adult, a college student, or a busy high schooler, you probably don't have 100+ hours of free time to dedicate to a single video game. Especially if you have a full-time job or kids, it's much more difficult to find time to game. Being able to pick up a game like Goof Troop and beat it with a friend in a single afternoon is, in my opinion, much more fun and satisfying than putting in 100+ hours into a modern game. Not that there aren't fun games that are longer, I just believe that at some point games can be too long to complete. At what point does completing a game seem like more work than fun? Not to mention that because these games are more compact than modern games, they're filled to the brim with action. There aren't 15-minute horse rides across a map, it's straight to the action. Traveling between locations doesn't seem burdensome. The maps are filled with character and fun to travel across. Let's take The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for example. This map is teeming with compact action throughout the entire world. It seems like you can't go a screen's length without encountering something new. The pixel art and aesthetic in this game are top-notch. Definitely a notable contender for one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. Honestly, I'd much rather play this than a modern Zelda game, and maybe that's just my preference. But there's something that just feels good about this old pixel art 2D RPG. And I'm not saying that more modern Zelda games are bad at all. I'm just saying that I can see see why A Link to the Past might feel like a better game to some people. Completing this game just feels more attainable. Also, for most games on the Super Nintendo, there isn't a huge learning curve for new gamers getting into the system. And that brings us to the second reason why I believe the Super Nintendo is the greatest console of all time. The Super Nintendo was created during what I consider to be the greatest age of gaming. 1985 to 2008 truly was the golden age of gaming. The Super Nintendo was created at the height of two-player co-op. I absolutely love how many games on this console are co-op, and I get that online gaming has created a way for people to always have someone to game with, but it just isn't the same as gaming with your friends in real life. While online gaming is extremely convenient, I can't help but mention that it feels a little lifeless when compared to gaming with your friends in person. Game developers for the Super Nintendo definitely got two-player co-op gaming right. The feeling of knowing that your friends are coming over specifically to play video games really isn't like many others. At least that's how it was for me. I also love how there are essentially no load times for these games. Once you pop in a cartridge and turn on the console, you're playing the game 30 seconds later. Try doing that with a new game you just bought virtually. Oh, that's right, you can't because it needs to download for another 8 hours. I really believe that the majority of games should be plug and play. Simple, fun, easy to set up sort of games and systems. Would your experiences as a kid have been the same if after buying a game you had to wait for it to download or find out that you don't have enough storage to begin with? You'll never have that problem with the Super Nintendo though, because the entirety of the game is on the cartridge. There will never be DLCs, patches for the game, updates, or anything else. You have all of it at your fingertips. You have all of it at your fingertips from the moment you purchase it. You also don't have to wait for your game to download or for your console to update when you get home with that new console setup. Did I mention that? Not having to wait for updates makes the experience more fun and memorable. You know what kids don't want for their birthday or Christmas? 8-hour game downloads or console updates. The Super Nintendo is from a time where you don't have to wait. Just pop in your cartridge and start gaming. And that brings me to the third reason why I believe the Super Nintendo is the greatest console ever created. If you've been looking to buy a new console, you should consider purchasing a Super Nintendo. I'm not a sales rep for Nintendo, and you should buy what you want with your money, but have you seen the cost of new consoles? Wasn't it just announced that the new Xbox is gonna cost $1,200? $1,200! Right now, the making of this video, you can buy a Super Nintendo with controllers on eBay in good condition for $140 to $180. There are some Super Nintendo consoles in pristine condition that cost more than that, but you can get a console in good condition for $150 all day long. And although some games for the Super Nintendo have become worth a small fortune, I'm looking at you, Hagane. There are tons of titles that are very affordable. For example, at the time this video was made, you can buy a copy of Super Mario World on eBay for $25. You can buy what many people consider to be the best 2D platformer ever made for $25. Not only that, there are so many more that you can buy for an affordable price. You also have access to the entire console's library. This is an advantage for newer consoles because you can really research the games you want to buy and even watch playthroughs before purchasing them. Back in the day, if you didn't check out a new game at your friend's house, you'd go to the store and have to make a decision basically blind without knowing if the game was going to be fun or not to play. The world will never know how many kids made blind purchases like these only to get home and find out the game that they purchased is the fun equivalent of watching paint dry. But seriously, there are tons of fun, high-quality games you can buy for this console for less than $50. Also, once you purchase a game for the Super Nintendo, or any cartridge game for that matter, it's yours and it can't be taken from you. What I mean by that is that these games will never be turned off on you. There's been a ton of controversy in the gaming community these last few years due to gaming companies turning off servers to older video games. If you buy physical games that can play offline, you never have to worry about that happening to your collection. You work hard and deserve to own the games that you purchase. It seems like everything is becoming a subscription in today's world, but it's nice to know that some things are still a one-time purchase, like the Super Nintendo. Pay for it once, it's yours for life. No advertisements, no downloads, no BS, just ownership, as it should be. But I'm curious, do you think the Super Nintendo is the greatest console ever created? Are retro games better than modern games? Did adding online play to games make gaming better? Is two-player co-op better than online play? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching and being a part of the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.